I'd like to call on stage Mr. Sameer Shah.
Thanks, Polomi, and welcome everyone. So there is, I can say there will be a joke in ValueQuest. You wake up any of us 2 a.m. in the morning and say, what are you bullish on? This is what we'll say. Obviously, money is where our mouth is. But yes, energy transition, I think you guys have heard it 2 years back at Inflection Day. There are several videos, all interviews. But this is what it is. This is once in a lifetime. These kind of trends, mega trends don't come very often. And when it comes, as the saying says, don't bother about finding the next mega trend if you cannot ride one. So here we are, with the latest update on our thing. So I can't judge what my wife will do next. We have, this thing that what this guy will do next. He is all pervasive everywhere last 2 months, every day, what is he thinking, what is he doing? And he said that, I love coal and there is clean coal and, withdrawn from Paris climate agreement, IRA fund has been paused. So, this has thrown the market into the tizzy. Stocks are down 40%. Whether it is Wari or anything else, people are worried. We are all used to, private markets have that advantage that there is no mark to market to see every day. But as the company gets listed and you see the stock price every day, then that also feeds on itself that Trump will do this and Trump will do that, and that is going to stop this mega trend. So we strongly disagree. How worried should we be? This is the track record in US, whether it is Obama, Trump, Biden, in every term, by the end of the term of the president, and you see the DOE presidents also, it has only grown one way. And this is, without any kind of, that speech, except for, lately what US has done. US is not even a, big player so far. So, this is a paradigm shift. This is driven by a lot of factors. It is not one individual who can, determine the fate or the fortune of this. Every country, everybody will have to adopt to it. And let's take a step back. The key drivers of electricity. Basically, the first point is the world needs more electricity. You want AI, you want electric cars, you want bullet trains, you want cryptocurrency. What is the raw material? You need electricity. That's the fundamental requirement. Every country, whether it is India, China, US, etc., we heard US, China also have power cuts. So, this is the basic raw material for all these large things, which is, like AI, ChatGPT uses as much electricity as maybe one village in US. So, that's the kind of electricity that is required. As the world energy demand increases, you see the blue on the top, that is electricity. So all other modes of energy, even with energy efficiency kicking in, etc., you are going to see electricity gain trend and gain share. And this is what it is. The J curve has already hit. World electricity demand is tripling in 40 years. And if you see post-COVID, we have seen a massive J curve, which from next to nothing, electricity share in world energy consumption is going to go to 30%. So that's the massive requirement of electricity. So that brings us to the second question, that where will it come from? You have, whatever sources of energy that you have. The world has decisively shifted towards renewables. And that's because, one of the things is the time, physical time taken to set up a solar plant, for example. You can set it up in 6 months versus, a nuclear, which will take 16 years. So while, countries may have whatever as a requirement, but time taken. We have all pledged to net zero. The confluence is on 2050. Some European countries have done it before, and say India has pledged as 2070 to be net zero. Again, this is not going to happen without a huge push towards renewables. So that is why all the regulatory framework, whether it is the demand push, whether it is the carrot, the stick, they have to incentivize supply. So every country has put in place the regulations to ensure that this, and you are seeing Shell. Go and see Shell, which is an oil company, saying that I want to be net zero and I'm going to set up solar power. Or Saudi Arabia, we are now seeing, Saudi becoming a major player, within renewables. So these are things that were unfathomable at some point, but this is actually happening, and even countries which you would never have thought of are putting those regulations in place. This is the main point, the economics of it, the levelized cost of energy. So basically, when you hear that solar module prices have dropped 96%, this, that, the basic instinct is that you are fearful that, oh, solar module prices are going down. But what it has ensured is a massive, upscaling in terms of the volume. So as the prices go down and it becomes more and more viable, today solar is the cheapest form of power generation in the world. So it's pure unit economics that is driving this trend. I mean, no government, nothing can stop that. And that's the classic X curve at play, where the world energy generation, electricity generation, going from 28,000 terawatt to 38,000 terawatts by 2030. And what you are going to see is the share of renewables within that. And this is just 5-7 years. This is not like some 50-year trend, and I'll come to that. So if you see, this energy transition has always been there. It is not something new. We were biomass-based, and then coal, and then oil, and now we have renewables. But this trend is the biggest and the fastest. So what we are going to see is, renewables becoming 70% of the world energy, and this is going to happen in a very short period of time. The earlier energy transitions have taken far longer. So that is why this is a huge force. And, everything, all the balance of forces have tilted. So technology is in place, unit economics are in place, regulations are in place. So, what is there left? That is why, the balance of forces. We have an age of renewables where, it is abundant, it is infinite, it is renewable. There is no concentration. Oil is, 5 countries get rich if oil goes up. But here, this is abundant, and even poorer countries have it. So that is why this is an unstoppable trend. I'll spend some time on this slide, because while whatever I have said so far seems very easy, but this is actually not. And these are the reasons why. The resources first. We are moving from an OpEx driven, you have a coal-based power plant, you import coal every year and you produce. So it is a more OpEx driven model. You set up a power plant, and then every year you have to spend on maintenance, you have to spend on coal, etc., to generate electricity. Whereas if you want to set up a solar power plant, for example, then it is all CapEx. It's fill it, shut it, forget it. It's just one-time CapEx. You do a large CapEx, you need large land, etc. But once you have done it, you can exactly say that next 25 years, this is the electricity that it is going to generate. So we are moving from OpEx to CapEx driven. We are moving from molecules to electrons. Coal can be stored, you can generate when you want and stuff like that. Solar, it will generate only in daytime, and energy that is generated on the day needs to solve for both transport and storage. If you are not able to transport and get it to the user on the same day, then there is no storage solution at this point of time. So battery storage today in renewables, you can probably store up to 2 hours, whereas oil you can store up to maybe 1,000 hours. So that is what it is, that all these are future things, and if these get solved, say storage for example, then as we say internally, this is God parity. Then the J curve will further accelerate. So the left-hand side is what is already mature, deployable, scalable, established unit economics, etc. So whether it is solar, whether it is biofuel or wind, those are all, already there, firmly established. And then there is a lot more within the new energy, some things like hydrogen, carbon capture, etc. that we've heard about. And there will be some technologies that we don't even know at this point of time. But this is how the transition is going to be. We have some in the mature stage and some in the R&D and prototyping stage. This is a very important quote, by Bill Gates, that we always overestimate what is going to happen in the short term, and we always end up underestimating what will happen in the long term. The Motorola example is classic. And I'll give you the example within solar, how this is played out. So this is somewhere around COVID. We had our internal presentations, and we had made a base case and bull case. So first, how the human brain works. If I say that we are going from 0 to 100, if you see the pink line and the green line, that is how our brain thinks. That is how the growth is going to be. It's like a straight line. Whereas the actual real world, that is not how it is. Large part of this growth is going to happen front-ended, and which is what we had also envisaged. So from next to nothing, the world was going to spend, in our base case, by 2035, about $1.5 trillion on renewable energy. And in a bull case, we said it would be $3 trillion. So this is what we had started, and we were not able to imagine $3 trillion per annum for 30 years is required to make this energy transition or go to anywhere close to net zero. What happened in reality? 2024, we have spent $2 trillion. So when you have this kind of a mega trend, you ended up underestimated by a margin. And how do the numbers look today? 2024, and I think we have seen that peak emissions in 2024. That is what everybody says. From here on, at least, as the transition happens, the emissions will go down. So from a $2 trillion spend in 2024, we are going to have a step jump to $5.5 trillion per annum till 2030. And then we'll have a further step up to $7.5 trillion, which will have to happen from 2030 to 2050. So this is not a 1, 2, 3 year trend. It is much, much larger, much, much longer. The kind of determination that it requires, the kind of resources that it requires is tremendous. We should not underestimate this. Secondly, emerging technologies obviously will be much, much faster. So mature technologies like EV, like renewable energy, power grids, battery storage, that is all established, and you are going to see, say, 2-3x jump by 2030. And then the newer areas like hydrogen or others, carbon capture, that will see maybe 8x, 10x kind of growth in the next 5-7 years. Key economics that needs, and this is like every country has to do it. China is leaps and bounds ahead, maybe 10 years, 15 years ahead of everybody else. Every other country in the world will need to do it. As ValueQuest, obviously, we've already defined that we want to buy at inflection points. So we have buckets, which is investable, which is in our watch list, and which is, far out in the future. And this is what, this is public market. No, actually, these are the technology-wise. So whether it is solar, ethanol, EV charging, etc., smart meter, those are opportunities of today. And carbon recycling or green methanol or carbon capture are things far out in the future. And this is how you map. You can buy a raw material supplier, you can buy a financer, you can buy an asset owner, you can buy an EPC player. There are many ways to play this trend. As ValueQuest, we want to identify where will be the maximum delta and where there will be a sustainable wealth creation, not transient. Focus on probabilities versus possibilities, and when there is a gold rush, shovel sellers, you don't know who will find the gold, but shovel sellers will definitely make money. So that's what it is. Coming to solar in particular, we have an exciting panel here, and it goes without saying, that we are very, very bullish on solar at this point of a time. World set up first terawatt in 68 years. The second terawatt happened in 2 years. And now what we are saying is we will have a terawatt installation every year. And this will also be an underestimation. So the target is 8 terawatt solar installations by 2030. What has already been delivered is to the left. What is to be delivered, whether reducing capital cost, whether developing global storage capacities. And look at the 2030 target, 2 terawatts of installation. So this is still, very 4x from here in 5 years. These 2 slides are the most important. If you see the China domination, so let's take, say, polysilicon wafer cell module. as capacities, say module capacities, 1200 gigawatt of global module capacities. China has 992 out of it. Southeast Asia, which is also China owned, has another 70. So if you see the last line, everything in terms of supply is dominated by China. If there is anybody else, it is India, which has now scaled up to 77 gigawatt. So that is how the beginning. People question us about overcapacity, but this is how it looks like. I am only taking 700 gigawatt of solar demand in 2030, and that will require modules of 1000 gigawatt. Today, world capacity X of China is just 138 gigawatt, of which 70 is India. So actually, if you see the demand supply, as long as the world wants to move, nobody wants this kind of dependence on China. And if that is the case, this is a fertile ground for India to actually, capitalize. There is no other country except India who is kind of determined and creating these capacities. So all regulations are in place. Government is doubling down on the regulations. You'll see more and more incentives given. Investments are increasing. So our view is clear. It's a multi-decade, multi-technology, multi-terawatt and multi-trillion-dollar trend. And we should only be optimistic about this.